What happened while we were away, brought to you by history, because history has shown the good guys are always the ones storming into churches in the middle of services for no other reason than to intimidate and harass Christians or something. A wild and sometimes violent weekend in the Twin Cities culminated on Sunday morning when former CNN anchor Don Lemon and a gang of rabid communists, sorry for the redundancy, stormed into City's church in St. Paul to scream at and harass parishioners. Allegedly, one member of the church is somehow involved with immigration and customs enforcement.
All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Shame on you. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities?
I'm not going to comment.
You have no comment. Exactly.
Reaction from the congregation ranged from bemused women to genuinely frightened children. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon, prior to the episode at City's church, admitted foreknowledge as to what the group intended to do.
These are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account.
Lemon also cornered the church's pastor in the middle of the one-sided fracas.
So I have to take care of my flock.
But listen, we live there's a constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay, that's why we're here. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And you know, I just imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. That's what protesting is about. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable. You may not like it.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism.
What the communists did yesterday is a federal crime, an overt and on-camera violation of the FACE Act, which you'll recall was used on specious grounds on a number of occasions during the Biden administration to try, convict, and imprison pro-lifers, including octogenarian grandmas with failing health and another octogenarian grandma who survived a concentration camp, among many others. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon, along with Attorney General Pam Bondi, have both signaled they're launching a full investigation into the matter. That wasn't the only action in the Twin Cities over the weekend, as the mob, who believes ICE is doing the Nazi thing by asking.
All right. Let's get into this. This weekend, as you guys saw, the radical left crossed a line. They crossed a line. They can't walk back. This was not a riot, not a street protest. It was a house of God, folks. City's church interrupted, invaded, and politicized. And now the same people who scream about democracy are scrambling to explain why Christians apparently don't deserve religious freedom. Tonight, we're breaking it down. We're breaking down what really happened, why this matters, and why the media is lying to protect their own. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all as you watch this broadcast. It's time for Pop and Politics. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-hosts. Of course, we have Nicole Bennett.
Hey, everybody.
And Shelly E.
Hi.
All right, we've got a lot to cover tonight, folks. Before we light this fire, do your part. Tap that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. Folks, more than ever, after seeing all of the things that have happened and transpired over these last couple of weeks, we must transform community. This is why we're here. Please, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and subscribe. Subscribe, folks. We love our chat. We shout out every super chat. So drop your thoughts, show your love, and join the conversation that the mainstream media wishes didn't exist. They can't stand us, and we're going to keep on going. All right. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. Stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, ladies, let's set it off. Before we really get into this, I want to, Nicole, you want to talk about our new merchandise before we get into it?
I do. So we want to talk about building a community. It's finally here, folks. You asked for it, and here it is. MCM has given it to you. Give me my money back. T-shirts are in just in time for A250 parties all summer long. You could put maybe a long sleeve underneath, maybe a little Under Armour if you're from Maryland. Good Maryland company. Listen, we waited with bated breath. We thought Santa was going to bring it, but Santa was a little late, and here it is. Get your shirt. It comes in a variety of colors, and nothing will tie you to this podcast more than this slogan on the front of your shirt. Give me my money back. I should get one and walk over to the IRS building. Maybe I should just bust into the IRS, right?
Yeah.
And bring Don Lemon and the lemonades with me and say, no, I'm doing an act of journalism. As I delete everybody's IRS file, right? Mm-hmm. Get the shirt. It's here. It's hot. I'm ordering mine tonight. I know everybody's going to want one. So get one. And if it sells out, be patient with us. It will be back. You can pair it up. Of course, you can wear that one on Friday, wear this one on Saturday. Look, we got you for the whole weekend. Get into the merch store, everybody. Make sure that people know where you stand. This conflict between good and evil has gotten really real, and this is a good way to let people know where you stand.
Absolutely, folks. You can find that store right on our YouTube page. You can tab over to store, and you can get all of your merch right there. And we appreciate the support. All right, ladies, let's get into it. Tons of stuff happened this weekend. This was one out in Minnesota. I want to get your first thoughts on this, Shelley. Was it an invasion? Did they have the right to do it? What are your first thoughts on what Don Lemon and these protesters did in the church?
I absolutely think it was an invasion, an intrusion, whatever other word people want to use. And let me tell you why. As much as I am a free speech 1A advocate, and I still am, you have never heard me say, in fact, let me say it in the positive. You have heard me say many times that your rights or my rights stop when they impede your rights. So therefore, those journalists or protesters, if you will, rioters, they impeded the rights of people freely worshiping. That's number one, KJ. Number two, let me tell you this. I will bet you every dollar that you could have, that you would give me, not my own money. I would bet you your money that these people would not have done that to a mosque, a Muslim mosque. They would not have done it. They would have feared, or, very tepidly, if they even dared to think so, they would not have done it. And then number three, this is what I imagine. I imagine houses of worships, yes, Christian houses of worships, had they been armed, they would have stopped them in their tracks. Even there would not have had to have been a shot fired, but just the fact that they were armed and protecting their turf, they would not have done that. Don Lemon, the Lemonade Group, whatever you want to call them, they were wrong.
Yeah. Nicole, I mean, we can't even worship without these nutty leftists knocking down our doors with these stupid hands up. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm glad that we weren't on the air yesterday, because I was so angry. I didn't have any words that I wanted to say publicly, because, they come back to bite you in the butt. The internet is forever. But can I tell you, my words really haven't calmed that much. I have two major complaints. The first being the audacity They planned to invade the house of God. This is where family begins. This is their assault on the family. People are married in the church. We dedicate our children in the church. And after you take your last breath, your friends and family eulogize you in the church. It is central to our communities. It is the bedrock and foundation of this nation. This is the reason why we had the big fight with England, right? And for them to come into this church willfully, knowingly, and absolutely thinking that they were going to break the internet with positive remarks shows you the large disconnect between these liberals and the rest of America. I'm not going to call them Democrats. I'm going to call them liberals. I'm going to call them political liberals, right? So they're so far fringe that it doesn't even really resonate with the rest of us, the way that their minds work. But I will say this, I will agree with Shelley. They picked the right church. They picked the right people. This brings me to my second comment about this. I am deeply concerned about Christian men. I am deeply concerned about Christian men. I don't know what's going on in Minnesota, if they're putting estrogen in the water. I don't know what's going on with these men. But I got in trouble for saying this before. There were some Christian people who didn't like what I said, but I'm going to say it again. I'm taking a page out of Shelley's book and my never to be humble opinion. If you will not defend God's house, what will you defend? Grown men watching women and children being terrorized in a house of worship, and you're giving an interview? You know, I get some people were saying that they were waiting, God is going to help us. God has already helped you. He gave you 2 hands. He gave you 2 feet. He gave you knees. Let me tell you something. Ball up that hand into a fist and crash it into the jawbone of the demon from hell that came to crash your damn church. Pick up the hymnal and go upside somebody's head while they screaming while you're trying to pray. Are you so serious in this moment? I can't even fathom. My church has security. The security is down front. You know why they down front? Because by the time we get finished with them as they come down the aisle, they're going to need first aid, somebody to call 911 to help them survive. They picked that church for a reason. No security. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it. I hate to say it. The men of that church, there's a problem. There is a very grave problem. And I don't know why this pacifist kind of Christianity has swept the world. I don't understand it. Maybe their Bibles are missing some pages. It just makes me, I can't even wrap my mind around the concept of grown men. You saw the picture of the child sitting there crying, terrorized in church.
I know.
The one safe place, he should be safe in that church at all times. Those men should be ashamed of themselves. At the very least, ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. Wow. It was a busy weekend, but when I saw that, I almost started to get online right then and there. I was like, can we put something together? Because I was so upset. I was so upset at seeing it. And I mean, I don't want to be too critical of the parishioners, because I think they all just seem sort of in shock. It was just so blazing. I don't know. But folks, please share this broadcast, share that video far and wide to all of your so-called Christian family, the leftist Christians that we know we all have in our family. Because I don't understand how anyone, left or right, can sit by and say that was okay. This is the moment for Christians to stop sitting on the sidelines. Faith was never meant to be silent, and freedom was never meant to be outsourced. Okay? If we don't defend the sanctity of the church,
say it,
the rule of law and truth of God's word, someone else is going to redefine them for us. And they're already doing it. I mean, but still, this was insane. This was insane. Okay. And we're going to go into this a little bit more. So as you all saw in the video, toward the end, people are saying, many of newscasters, people have been on legal all over the news this weekend, saying that these protesters violated the law. News One, Newsmax, Fox, many people are on there saying there should be charges and maybe charges brought against Don Lemon and those protesters because they violated something called the FACE Act. Now, you guys who have been watching us for quite some time know that we talked about this when our friend of the show, Bevelyn Beatty, was indicted and convicted under the FACE Act. Thank God she was pardoned by the Trump administration. Yes. But she was, her charges were brought up against her under the FACE Act. They claimed that she was blocking an abortion clinic in a protest, and she went to jail for it. So again, the FACE Act, we all thought that it applied just to to abortion clinics, but there's a long list under the FACE Act of how things are covered. Take a look at this next clip, and we're going to get into this. This is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and failed comic, successful degenerate D.L. Hughley on Don Lemon's show after the protest, going over the reaction that they received. This is clip 4.
And the FACE Act, by the way, is designed to protect the rights of people seeking their reproductive rights to be protected, and so that people, for a religious reason, cannot just use religion to break into women's reproductive health centers, right? So how they are stretching either of these laws to apply to people who protested in a church over the behavior or the perceived behavior of a religious leader is beyond me.
Okay. So there you saw, they're commenting on that. Joining us to break this down is attorney Jonathan Alexander of the Liberty Counsel. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you so much.
How are you tonight?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. We are so excited to have you with us. This is your first time on Pop and Politics. Before we really get involved in this, please let the audience know where they can find you and any information or anything you'd like to share with the audience.
Well, you can find me, as you can find Bible-believing Christians, every Sunday morning at 11 at church. At church. Zeal for the house of God consumes me. I echo all of your comments just now that this is outrageous, this intimidation, this assault, this harassment that we saw levied against the people of God for just wanting to gather together and worship. It's beyond the pale. It's exactly why our founders wanted to establish a place here on this continent so that it can worship God freely. And we anticipate and expect that government will help secure those rights. So I join you in that anger. Liberty Counsel you can find us on lc.org. We're a constitutional litigation firm. We work all over the country. The last time that we really had to push in order for the rights of believers to be respected, or probably the more recent time, was during COVID, where these same agitators, gripped by fear, gripped by political maneuverings, locked churches, shut them down, said that they were no longer essential, broke the sacred barrier that we've established around churches in our country. And so, 5 years later, downstream, you can have a Don Lemon and his cohorts decide, well, this place isn't essential. This place isn't sacred. This place can't be protected. We can use it as a platform for our political stage. So we fight in the same way that you have articulated. The zeal for the Lord consumes us when we see what they've done to our fellow brothers and sisters there in that church.
Wow. I love it. I love it. All right. So my question for you is, does the FACE Act apply here? And if so, how?
It absolutely does. Signed into law in 1994, and the debate went back and forth as to what it should included. As that so-called Attorney General was saying, Ellison, it obviously has been used in the past, as the writing says, to talk about reproductive freedoms and access to healthcare. It's almost in the title itself. And so we've done a lot in the past to try to rein in the abuse of that law. But there is a provision in that law that was rightly fought for and placed in by a Catholic at the time, Ted Kennedy, that said, well, you have to protect churches too. The Catholic Church at the time, specifically in Massachusetts, where he was from, are some of the strongest anti-abortion advocates that we have, some of the strongest pro-life advocates that we have. And you'll remember right after the overturning of Roe and Wade, you had folks go to Catholic churches in New York and in other parts of the country and try to desecrate their altars in order to promote so-called reproductive rights and abortion rights. So in '94, when they put that language in, when it was passed and signed into law by Clinton, church was in there. Religious facilities could not be intimidated or disrupted, or you could not coerce people from not being able to express their fundamental right, in this case, the fundamental right to worship God on a Sunday morning. So that's within the text, and law enforcement, the government, DOJ has everything they need in front of them to prosecute those that were persecuting the church this past Sunday.
Thanks, Jonathan, for that. I was going to ask something similar, but I'll ask my second question regarding public versus private property in relations to churches. I've heard many people online say, this was a public gathering. They were invited in. At what point does it become, is it public or private property if the public is invited in? Or at some point, if you are asked to leave, are you trespassing if you don't? Or how do all of those kind of parts play in?
You're absolutely right. A way to think of it is, if a church is inviting folks to come in as they do, come as you are, there's a difference that the church retains in its ability to allow things to go on within its midst. On the one hand, it can have a spaghetti dinner approach. The spaghetti dinner approach is something that they put on for the community to come in, sort of a potluck thing. But the Bible studies and the worship services, despite inviting people in, think of it as inviting people into your living room. This is our ordained service. This is our moment between us, each other, and our Savior. And you're going to recognize that under the law. The Constitution recognizes that right of that type of worship under the law. And anytime it's been challenged, even most recently when the IRS asked the question whether or not pastors can speak about public candidates and political candidates from behind the pulpit, they once again had to realize that, no, this is a living room setting. This is a family meeting. This is what we do amongst ourselves. We'll invite you to come in so long as you'll apply under the rules. And most churches, and every church should have a constitution where they write out what allows for membership, what allows for the use of the service, also what is described as things outside of the service that you can be removed for. Certainly what Don Lemon did and those agitators that came in are beyond the pale of any invitation that a church has given to them. And so, yes, they are a private entity. They're not the ones that would enforce the freedom of the press. Don Lemon said, I was just doing a journalist's work. No, Congress can't make a law against the freedom of the press. So it's not up to the church to ensure that Don Lemon has the freedom of the press. It is up to the church to exercise their own rights of religion, of worship. And that's what they were doing that day. What Don Lemon came in and did with his cohorts, planned in advance, had smacks of the Ku Klux Klan, where they organized They orchestrated things in order to stop other folks from exercising their liberties. That's what needs to be brought out. And I think there is enough there for the DOJ to go after these folks and prosecute them.
That was going to be my question, Jonathan. So just across socials, what you've been hearing is that Harmeet Dillon and Pam Bondi are going to go after Don Lemon using the Ku Klux Klan Act, which I thought was a little bit of justice because, he fancies himself some sort of Black journalistic hero that should be held in high esteem. And to see him even mentioned in the same sentence with the Ku Klux Klan Act is just a little bit of eating ice cream in bed at night. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of deliciousness. But can you tell us more about that act and how this would apply to him if it does?
Yeah, absolutely. If you break down the First Amendment generally, because it's been thrown around, by Don Lemon and by us as well, saying that we have the right. It says Congress can't stop us from exercising our right to the press. Congress can't stop us from exercising our right to worship. It applies to the states via the 14th Amendment. So it's going to apply in this situation. But here's a private actor. So it's not necessarily government stopping these people from worshiping. What can we do to make sure that there can't be an organized band of individuals that they could be acting for government, they could be acting on their own, but what stops one group or one faction from stopping another's expression of their liberty? And so the Ku Klux Klan Act was enacted to say, no, those same rights that government recognizes in those Bill of Rights, those same things that government is not allowed to do, private actors and private citizens can't do against other citizens as well. And they named it the Klan Act because that's what the Klan did. They organized in order to limit the rights of African Americans in the Deep South from worshiping in some instances with the bombings that they did in churches, but also from just living out their civil liberties and their constitutional rights. So they placed that label on there saying, hey, yes, we're going to recognize that there's certain things that government can never encroach on, that being religious liberty. And at the same time, we're going to say private actors, you in your own right, you cannot band together and encroach on those same liberties. And so that's the law that they are armed and equipped with to go after Don Lemon and his cohorts.
Right. Before you go, KJ, I'm going to read the super chatters because I think we have a few people who want to comment. Jonathan, thanks for being here again. We have Dallas Delight. Thank you for your $3 super chat, Dallas. Dallas says Don Lemon is with a white man, hypocrite. Okay. Okay. We have the Voice of Reason. Thank you for your $5 super chat and for being one of our mods. He says you are 100% correct about that. I think he's talking about Nicole because he says, I'm totally upset with the men of that church. Thank you for that. We also have Josh. Hi, Josh. Thank you for joining us tonight with your $20 super chat. Josh says, good evening, Pop fam. Christ is King. This type of blasphemy and disrespect makes me so mad. Most of white America, in the North at least, have pacifist churches like this one taught to keep their faith silent, referring to what you were talking about, KJ. So thank you all for your supers. Before I go back to KJ, Jonathan, I do want to ask you this because when KJ's question and you answered regarding COVID, I'm going to take a little, quote unquote, devil's advocate. During COVID, when churches were closed, do you think this attitude of, I guess I'm going to call it this pacifist attitude in 2026, do you think this kind of is a play on or a consequence of Christians not pushing back during COVID when our churches were made to close? Do you think this may have a little bit of contributory factor to that?
I think absolutely right. Our laws and our liberties, our duties as they run together, and it's like a muscle. In order to have this liberty, in order to have this duty of worship, you got to keep exercising the muscle. And the moment you don't, it becomes atrophy. You lose the pulse. You lose sort of the rhythm of what it means to look at a threat to your rights. COVID came in and we lost our perception of what it meant to truly have that right to worship. And we allowed governments all across this country to shut us down. And we put our weights down. We put our hands down and allowed them to encroach. And the rest of the world was watching. They saw that, man, maybe these Christians are fine just in their silos, or maybe they're fine not singing or chanting or sharing communion with one another. Maybe their religious liberties and practices aren't that serious to them, such that they think that 6 years down the road, they can come into a church of God, a place that throughout the entire American history has been known to be sacred. It's the one place where you'll find the majority of Americans still to this day at the 11 a.m. hour worshiping God. I'm thinking of what we just went through as an African-American community. All of our churches, and some were good, some were a little iffy, but we were all singing total praise. We were all remembering Richard Smallwood, because that's what we do. We worship, we come together, and we fix our eyes on Christ. That's why he spared us as a nation. That's why he spared us as a people up until this point. If we're not willing to continue to pick up that weight and exercise that muscle, then that lets the devil, that lets the other side know that they can come in and define what our terms are. But no, our terms do not come from man. Our terms come from God, and it's to him only does the glory, the honor, and the worship of our Sunday morning service belong.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. My question for you, my last question for you, Jonathan, is, when I hear you speak, I'm hearing it as a Christian, not as a Black woman, Christian, not as a Republican, not as a conservative, as a Christian. But what we just saw and what we've seen over the last several months has become partisan. And something like this, looking at what happened all Christians, no matter if you're conservative or liberal, whether you're Republican or Democrat, should be enraged by what we saw. What can you say to people on the left that are looking at this through the lens of leftism, through the lens of partisanship, when this should be something that enrages all of us, no matter your politics?
Yeah, look at who you're allying with. You look across the world right now in Nigeria, Boko Haram and Muslims are operating out of the same playbook. Let's find the Christians where they're worshiping and let's go and attack them. So that's who the left is allying with by not speaking out against this and not being offended by this unique space in our culture that our nation has carved out that is sacred and belongs to God. That's what ought to enrage even those that may not believe in God, but understand that there is some moral quality to my neighbor leaving every Sunday morning and going to church as opposed to going to the casino or the bar. It makes a difference for your neighborhood. It certainly made a difference in my own heart and in our own lives. And any leftist, any person, any American should be able to look at the Christian, look at the church, look at the faithfulness that God has provided to this country because of the witness of the church and say, I may not believe the same way, but I like what they do. I appreciate what they do, and I want them to be able to keep doing it. That's all we asked as Americans, and it's certainly the reason we have it as our I like that you call it 1A. That's why we have it as our First Amendment, because that's what's going to preserve this country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We definitely have to have you back. Definitely, you gave a lot of clarity on this, especially legal clarity and Christian conservative clarity. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Folks, this is Jonathan Alexander. He is with the Liberty Counsel, and we certainly will have you back on, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Yes, indeed. All right, folks. Again, as you all come in, hit that like button, that helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and subscribe. We are trying to grow this community. We still want to hit 250,000 subscribers. That is our goal. We only can do it with your help. So please hit that like button, share this video, post it on your social media, send it in a DM or a text message, and subscribe. All right. So we're going to stay on this topic, folks, because these people have no shame whatsoever. OK, and they are not done. So staying on this topic, the lady who led the protest, her name is, I believe, was Nakima Levy Armstrong. And she was being interviewed on Chris Cuomo's News Nation show, and she had a lot to say. Take a look. This is clip 3.
Levy Armstrong helped organize the protest at the Minneapolis church this weekend. Nakima also, by the way, ordained reverend. Okay, so miss her with the what you've been sending me today. These protesters hate Jesus. She's a reverend. All right, just putting it out there. Former Homeland Security Chief of Washington, D.C., Donnell Harvin, and Trump's former acting director of ICE, Jonathan Fahey. Good to have each and all. Counsel, I'll start with you. Counsel Armstrong, how do you believe that the protesters, were they supposed to go into a place of worship as far as you understand about the video that we're seeing?
Absolutely. We went into...
And that is legal. Why? That's the context.
We were invited into the church. The pastor himself is on video calling it a public gathering, a public church service. So we were invited in, and contrary to your opening statement saying BLM protesters busted in, that's absolutely inaccurate. As a matter of fact, most of the people who were a part of the protest were everyday, ordinary citizens who are frustrated with the brutality that we have dealt with at the hands of ICE. And over the weekend, we found out that one of the pastors at the church, David Easterwood, also serves as the director of the field office for ICE in St. Paul at the Whipple Federal Building. Now, as an ordained reverend and as an itinerant preacher, I was shocked. I'm someone who believes very firmly in the gospel of Jesus Christ, And the foundation of that gospel is to love thy neighbor as you love thyself. When you contrast that to the behavior of ICE agents who have done anything but love their neighbor, as a matter of fact, they have killed their neighbor. When Renee Good was killed by ICE agent Jonathan Ross on January 7th of 2026, we realized that there is a dichotomy at work that is unsustainable. How can you be both a pastor as well as someone who unleashes ICE agents upon our community who are inflicting harm day after day after day? That's the real story.
I understand the grievance. I cover that story here every day, Nakima. What I'm saying is, are you open to one, the pastor saying I did not invite them in, and he says on tape many, many times, I don't want them here. I didn't ask them in. They came in. But that's a question of fact. Let's put it to the side. Are you open to the perspective of people seeing this as proof of what's wrong with your side, as it's called right now, as opposed to, go ahead.
No, I think it's proof of what's right, because what you may not realize is that we walked into the church, sat down, participated in the service, singing the songs along with the parishioners and even praying along with the parishioners. And during the pastor's prayer, he specifically said, Lord.
Wow, folks. Proof of what's right? Oh, my goodness. That is what's proof. We know the Bible talks about what's right. We're going to come to a time where what's right is going to be said wrong, and what's wrong is going to be made right. And that right there, she is the picture example of that. All right, folks, to respond to this and break this all down, we brought a real pastor, okay? A real pastor. That right there, that thing is not one. All right. Pastor Damon of New Beginning Celebrations in New Bern, North Carolina. How are you tonight, Pastor Damon?
I'm doing well. How are you, ladies?
Oh,
Hi, Hey, Pastor Damon.
We are fired up. I want to get right into this, folks. You know Pastor Damon. He's been on here before. He's on Christian Conservative with me on Thursdays and Sunday nights. You can find him at New Beginning Celebration on YouTube. Pastor Damon, what are your thoughts on that exchange?
It's a bunch of lunatics. I sat back and heard her give a bunch of explanation. Well, we are not BLM activists, and honey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were the nursery school around the street. You were unlawfully entering into that worship session, and you can get all into the little semantics all you want. You were wrong. It was unlawful. You were infringing on their First Amendment rights. But according to the FACE Act, you're in big trouble. You and Don Lemonade, just forget it. It's over. I don't know what their purpose was supposed to be.
Right. And what I want to ask before I get you in here, Shelly, is you heard what she said, and we've seen a lot of these leftist preachers, pastors, whatever you want to call these trash. They believe that the gospel of Christ and the Bible says, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. So this then says ICE is not doing what they're supposed to do. And because they believe the church is supporting ICE, this is in total opposition of the Bible. Can you speak to that part of this, what she said here, the ordained reverend?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, that part you said at the end, I'm just going to grab that at the end and back it up. And on this podcast, I don't care what you think about me. I don't care. My question is, what does the Bible say? She is not an ordained pastor herself.
Right.
Let me help you understand that. From 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 11 through 15, God states the order of creation between Adam and Eve and who has authority in the earth, period. And he does that by using his own thing called the law of first mention. So he goes back to the beginning of creation, cut the chapter division out, going into chapter 3. Then he talks about if a man desires the position of a bishop, he desires a good thing, and he must be the husband of one wife. Sweetheart, I want you to show me your identification that makes you a husband, because there ain't but one thing that's going to make you a husband. You're out of order already. So that's the perversion. And then these clown men who are so jelly-back, spineless, and feminine-like have gone in there and decided to allow this woman Jezebel to lead them into stupidity, just like the Jezebel of the Bible had her husband Ahab by the nose and just led him around like an idiot. So they were out of order, number one. Number two, the church is supposed to stand up. Does everybody realize in Genesis chapter 9, verse 6, God told Noah, whom Peter called a preacher of righteousness, and I believe it was 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5, he called Noah a preacher of righteousness. So God gave Noah in Genesis 9 and 6, Noah, if man shed man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. In other words, preacher of righteousness, I'm putting judicial magistrate and law enforcement into your hand. You are my servant, my follower, my believer. He did it at the very beginning with Adam. Adam, you have dominion. Then after the flood, he said, Noah, you're the preacher of righteousness. You abide in me, and therefore I'm going to give you this law, and you govern the earth. Fast forward. So, well, Pastor, that's Old Testament. You know how they like to do that. Yeah. Well, you go in chapter 13, verses 1 through 7, and it not only does it teach us to obey the governing authorities because they're here to take care of evil, but they're also here, if you want praise of the same, do what is good, and they will praise you, right? He calls them his ministers 3 times in 7 verses. So people understand that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. So in my church, guess who is the authority when you cross that threshold? Guess who is the human government magistrate? The preacher of righteousness. Come in there if you want to, act crazy if you want to. On the little table laying next to me is something that'll handle you. And then all in the seats all over the church. I'm here to let you know we are not that kind of church. I'm not that kind of pastor.
All right.
Just letting you know. Sorry.
Well, look, let me say this, Pastor. Thank you for being here. So I had 3 quick points. Number one, she's talking about she said they were invited. The pastor says not. At whatever point the pastor said leave, you have to leave. That's number one. Number two, I didn't see them in there praying and worshiping with the congregation. They were interfering, which is what the FACE Act says, paragraph number 2. And number 3, if she wants to talk about the other, I think his name is Pastor Easterwood in that church, and she's I don't know what she's doing, evaluating them, I guess. Proverbs, I think it's 16, which is a little bit closer to the New Testament than you were, Pastor Damon. But Proverbs 16 talks about using just scales. So by which scales are you balancing this church's right with yours? You're not doing so. So therefore, you're even starting off on the wrong scale. Again, when your rights impede someone else's, this is first A, then you have to stop. You have to step back because you can't impede someone else, so your scales are off balance. So this is all a bunch of foolishness and hooey, and it is. And no, she's not a pastor. I don't even be upset with me too, because I don't even call females reverend, pastor, whatever. I don't either. So whatever. But she's making this stuff up as she goes. And yes, Linda, to your question, she is the same Nakima that was affiliated heavily with BLM.
Wow. Yeah. Nicole, what are your thoughts here?
I want to say thank you, Pastor Damon. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My soul was just stirred to finally have a Christian man stand the hell up. I'm telling you what, when I tell you I was so heated yesterday, I was so thankful we weren't on, because all of what I had to say was going to come back. I could have saw it, just people beat me over the head with my words. I was so angry at the male people in that church. So, the reason that we have 2A is to ensure that 1A doesn't get impeded on.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? So yes. I get that the body of Christ is immense, and we need the nurturers, and we need the prayer warriors, and we need, the kind, delicate, gentle people. But your church also needs the hand that holds the sword of God, the hand that holds the whip. There's got to be somebody in there who's got enough of something in them to defend the house of God. It makes me furious to think that a bunch of demons from the gates of hell, I don't care what internet she got a certificate from, wandered into their church, megaphones jumping in people's faces, terrorizing women and children, and the men just kind of stood around in shock and awe. I need other strong Christians like yourself, Pastor Damon, to reach out to this church and the pages that they're missing from the Bible, fill it in. Fill it in. Tell them what they missed, because this is what happens when there's a cancer, a cancerous cell in the body of Christ. It spreads, right? So let's talk about 6 months before this incident, and they brushed this under the rug. The transgender furry person who killed those children.
Yes.
Children killed at a mass that was school sponsored. Swept that right on under the rug. But let me tell you something. You put one cartoon with Muhammad on it, in a newspaper, they're going to burn that town to the ground. So you tell me how these people worship what they believe to be a God with such passion and fervor that today's Christian church can't muster. And sit here and tell me that God's okay with that. I'm going to tell you he ain't.
No.
I don't ever want to speak for God. I don't ever want to do that. But I will tell you that somebody in that church had that tingle on the back of their neck, and their spirit was jumping to get out of their body to do something, and their flesh kept them seated. So what? You would have been arrested.
Right.
So what? You would have been persecuted.
Right.
God took his stripes for you. He carried that cross for us. He gave his life for us. And you couldn't slap somebody with a Bible? Would have slapped him from Genesis to Revelations. Would have got back up. I would have kept beating that demon until they got their mind right. And there could have been a GoFundMe, a Go Send Give to get Nicole Bennett out of jail. It would have been all over the internet. But let me tell you something. When I take my last breath here and open up my eyes to God, and God says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Right. I'm gonna be like, you know what? Because Jesus, I had Psalms right here with my thumb, and whack. I'm not going to let it happen. Not on my watch. You cannot call yourself a Christian and let the demons from the gates of hell raid into God's church. You may not. You may not. And as calm as I'm trying to be now, I was very angry.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of Christians were.
Oh my gosh!
Could not. Let's see what our supers have to say. We have let's see, Laura. I'm sorry, Ooslab for your $10. Thank you, Ooslab, for your $10 super chat. We have Laura. Again, thank you for your $10, Laura. Laura. Just want to say that I love KJ, Shelly, and Nicole in the chat family, and we love you right back, Laura. Thank you so much. We have WD. Thank you. I don't know what that means, but WD. Thank you for your $10 super chat. Anytime, stop on by. Jay Hunter Lee, thank you for your $5 super chat. Jay says, "Hello, ladies. Hello, Pastor. My question is for the pastor. Doesn't Scripture deny women preachers anyway?" Absolutely, Jay. He mentioned that. Yep, he mentioned that. Jay, just go back a little bit, rewind just a little bit, and you will hear Pastor Damon talk about that. Yep. Thank you all for our super chat. Thank you for your comments. Keep them coming. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We have about a little bit less than half of the people who are watching who have hit that like. So go ahead and do it now. We have one more super chat here. The Voice of Reason again, $5. Thank you. He says, "You better stop, Pastor. You're making too much sense and stepping on toes." Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, folks. You can find Pastor Damon at New Beginning Celebration. Well, please, Pastor Damon, shout out your channel here on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, well, we're called Celebrating New Beginnings on our YouTube channel. So we just reversed the word. The church is New Beginning Celebration without the S. New Beginning Celebration is the church, and New Beginning Celebration is the Facebook page. We'd love for you to jump on the Facebook page. You'll see all the work we're doing in our conservative movement with our church. So you're going to get Bible and you're going to get Constitution. And I'm hosting actually right now in New Bern, North Carolina. I'm hosting a Constitution class put on for us by some Constitution coaches from Patriot Academy. And the county just went up in smoke about it. They loved it. I don't mean smoke in a bad way. People were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." And they're excited to see a pastor leading this charge. Yes. So our YouTube channel, Celebrating New Beginnings, and our Facebook page and church is New Beginning Celebration. And I want to say this to any pastor that's watching, or anybody that has a pastor that you don't think they're quite there. The word shepherd means something. Okay. Let's go in the Bible and find the greatest shepherd after Jesus that there ever was in the Bible. His name is David. King of Israel, the greatest king to so far ever rule on the earth. Jesus hadn't reigned as king yet. He's going to in the 1,000-year millennial reign when he returns. Right now, he left as the savior. He's ascended, but when he comes back, he's going to rule as king. So right now, David's got that record. David was a shepherd. What did the shepherd do? He fought the bear, the lion, the giant. He fought for the sheep. He protected the sheep. That is one of my first priorities. Other than teaching the word of God, I am a shepherd, and I'm going to protect the sheep. Come up and listen. I have a deacon in our church that can push a full-size Escalade across the shop floor by himself. I watched it. I said, Deke, you're ready. And you should have heard what he was telling me the other night that they planning on buying here in the next couple of days too. Whoo, man, I don't have anything that awesome yet in my arsenal, so I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go shopping.
Yeah, and folks, on my other channel, Christian Conservative, you can find us there on Thursdays and Sundays. We have a series coming for you, and Pastor Damon is going to be on there with us. Pastor Damon, you always talk about the black robe pastors, and we're going to really dive into that for Black History Month, because this is you, and you made me think about that. You know, this is our pastors are so Bible believing pastors are so important to our communities, and they have been in history. They have been very important, and we're going to talk about that. And this is one of the reasons why many of our communities are failing. They're not thriving because we don't have these black robe pastors. And you mentioned this before, Pastor Damon. Can you just tease a little bit about that? The black robe.
So the Black Robe Regiment was the Black Robe Regiment was a group of pastors, and I won't say a group of pastors. They were just labeled the Black Robe Regiment by the British, who these pastors, black, white, or indifferent, whatever they were, left out of the pulpit from preaching on Sundays during the Revolutionary War. They would come to church, they would preach their sermons, they would give their amen, put the paper down, take their black robes off, and pick up their muskets and lead 50 to 100 men out of their church into the wars. These were black men, white men, whoever had churches, and they would recruit the members of their congregation. Now, there were some that went out and fought on the front lines. There were some that stayed home and helped prepare everybody else to be prepared for war. And there were some that preached in the open public square about what was going on and how to stand up for our country. Nevertheless, the British once said that if it hadn't have been for those pesky pastors, we might have succeeded. Pastors, you are valuable. I don't know what part of the boogeyman that got to you, because see, our church is in a 501c3. You aren't going to get me like that, because I said, well, wait a minute. Before the Johnson Act came about, before Lyndon Johnson did this screwball thing with the 501c3, what were the churches doing before that? They were tax exempt before that. So wait a minute. So I did some investigating and discovered my First Amendment rights as a church didn't say I had to be a 501c3 to be tax exempt. People get returns on their taxes. If they want to, they can file for their taxes. They get the statement from the church and they file their taxes and they get their refunds anyway through our church. So the idiots that believed in that, some of them were still, you can't tell them any different. They don't even know that just 3 or 4 months ago that the IRS went back and recanted on that and said, hey, you know, we're not going to get involved in that. Preach about who you want to preach about in your church. That's your business. And furthermore, they can't tell me what to do. When COVID came and the governor was shutting down churches, well, telling churches they had to shut down here. I said, well, he doesn't pay any bills here. He's going to have to come in this parking lot and tell me that I got to shut down. And when we get through having that discussion and they scrape him up, I'm going back in the church and finish preaching my sermon. We're not having that here, Roy Cooper. You don't pay any bills, Mr. Governor, who's not our governor now, but at that time he was. I filed an IRS number. I filed for a federal ID number for that church. That is private property. That is a private business. I can invite you in as public. But when it comes to it, Pastor Damon's name was signed on the dotted line and say, okay, this is our federal ID number. New Beginning celebration begins now as a church. It wasn't Roy Cooper and it wasn't the federal government. No. So, you know, we have to, if we don't know our laws, if we don't study the Constitution and we know the laws that come from the Constitution, they will make laws that are unconstitutional to make you. And remember, the Constitution is that, I call that the rule of law, because from that, all laws must come. And that is the determination whether the laws in this nation are just and right or unjust. You got to have that litmus test, and the Constitution is it. So we have to study our Bibles in one hand and the Constitution in the other. And for these pastors that are not doing it, I'm so sorry. There's not another pastor in our Constitution class here in Craven County. I can't believe it. And we're loaded. We got people that's actually doing it via Zoom all the way from Colorado, Arizona, and Nevada.
Wow.
That's very cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Pastor Damon. Folks, you can we're going to share, link your page for this broadcast with us, and definitely check out Pastor Damon on YouTube, Celebrating New Beginnings on YouTube, right? Or is it?
Yeah, Celebrating New Beginnings.
Celebrating New Beginnings on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yes,
I love y'all. Yes.
All right. We will see you soon, Pastor Damon.
Hey,
Thank
I
you
hope
so
to see
much.
y'all at the gala too. Now I'll be there. All right. So let's rock. I'll see you in February.
Absolutely, folks. Nicole, please share the gala. Pastor Damon.
Yes. So Black Conservative Federation is celebrating 10 years, our 10-year anniversary. But first, we're going to have our honors gala. It's an annual gala that we have this year. It is From Freedom to Flourishing. This is the theme. And folks, I'm going to tell you, it is a thing to behold. It's at the new Trump Kennedy Center. At least that's what the signage says for right now, the Trump Kennedy Center. And it is fancy. We're talking black ties, so ball gowns and tuxedos and, full face, and maybe even a little Jasmine Crockett action going with the eyelashes. It's going to be amazing. There are going to be a few surprises. We're going to honor Alice Johnson, of course, the pardon czar, and Alexis and Christian, who are two younger people, but hold very significant jobs in the Trump administration. One at Treasury, the other at Energy. And we all now are learning how important energy is to the United States. So this is a big deal. There's going to be a couple of other people who are going to be there. Surprises, can't really say too much, but you should get your tickets and get them now. VIP has sold out. It is absolutely gone. There's not a VIP ticket nowhere. I can't squeeze you on nobody's table. None of that. Get a general admission ticket and come and party with the people, because there's going to be a really great reception before the event starts. So you should get your ticket so you can be in the number and stand on that marble floor in the beautiful, beautiful Trump Kennedy Center and celebrate From Freedom to Flourishing with us. This is going to be on February 18th, 19th. Sorry, y'all. I'm still kind of frustrated about this whole Christian thing. Don't even get me started again. Please don't bring it back up. But
well, let's see how super. I'm sorry.
I'm going to tell you. Woo, it's.
Let's see how super. We have a few supers. Bill G, thank you for your $10 super chat. Bill, bless you for this message, and you as well. Thank you, Bill, for that. We also have I am Penny Cam. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Thank you for stopping by. Brown Eyes.
Hey, Brown Eyes.
My brown eyes blue. Thank you for your $50 super chat. Great to see you. Hello, ladies and pastor. I love your guest speakers. They are knowledgeable and facts were spoken. Thank you, Brown Eyes, for that.
All right, Pastor Damon, we got to get you back on here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
Love y'all.
Can't wait to see you.
All right. Love you right back.
All
right, folks. Well, as you all come in, please hit that like button. We have over 600 people watching. We got to get those likes up. That tells YouTube to push this video out to a wider audience, and we appreciate your support. All right, folks. So, again, folks, as we said, great row of speakers we had on here tonight. We got more coming as the week goes on, some special guest speakers. You don't want to miss it. So please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe. All right. Moving right along, folks. These leftists, they just don't get it. They don't get it. And it's on us to continue to push back with the truth. Today, on CNN, Democrat Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal is out here again pushing this idea that these protesters had every right to siege this church as they worshiped. We have the clip here just breaking out tonight. Take a look.
The activists on the street right now, they feel a kind of helplessness, right? That's how you end up bullying your way into a church. And you've been in that chair. You've been the person who was the activist and felt like lawmakers weren't doing enough. Do you understand their frustration? Of course. The activists on the street right now, they feel a kind of helplessness, right? That's how you end up bullying your way into a church. And you've been in that chair. You've been the person who was the activist and felt like lawmakers weren't doing enough. Do you understand their frustration? Of course.
No, that's the end of the clip.
Oh, I may have put the wrong one on there. Sorry about that. But yeah, so that was Representative Pramila J. Paul. She is actually confirming that it is acceptable for protesters to siege places of worship. But I think that may have been too short of a clip. I may not have the whole clip there, so I apologize there. But again, folks, these people, they are not. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about our rights. Only if they can use it somehow to keep themselves in power. And so I really hope that not just conservatives, but Christians that claim to that vote Democrat see these videos and realize these people are they're awful. Quick response from you ladies. Nicole, what did you think of that? What do you think of that idea?
Do you know she's one of the squad members and was one of the loudest voices about the so-called J6 riot that happened? So it's okay for people to raid God's house, but protesters best not come to the people's house. Is that what she's saying?
Right.
I've had enough of these people. The best thing, because I do believe in all chaos, there is always something good. The good thing that came out of this is that people who don't agree with necessarily how we're going about removing illegals out of our nation looked at those videos, Democrat, independent, and said, this is too far. This is too much. When you hear anchors on CNN using words like bullying your way into a house of worship, this is the one good thing that's going to come out of this. So we're going to see either one of two things. Either the Democrats, the party, not the far liberals, the party is going to separate itself from these far liberal people, or the far liberal people have completely overtaken the Democrat Party. There's no separating this particular thing. Even if you're not a Christian, regardless of what God you call God, person you call God, if this had happened in your house of worship, how incensed would you have been? Because it will. It definitely will. Now that, the toothpaste is out the tube, there's no putting it back. There's no putting it back. So when the Proud Boys bust into a mosque, shut up. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about J6 ever again. Don't ever want to hear about it. They've lost all credibility. And this is that moment. Democrats, it's on you. What are you going to do? Are you going to corral these crazy people, or are you going to continue to embrace this lunacy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts on that?
Just a few words. Quoting Dennis Prager: the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. And as long as we allow, again, this is a part of it, this idea that government can just swoop in and that these people are representing government by way of saying these are our rights, the more power we allow. And if we don't prosecute these people, this is basically saying to the government, if you will, if you're not going to prosecute them, then that means you subscribe to our rights, our First Amendment, Second Amendment, all the other rights being, usurped, overtaken because someone claims they have a right to our property. And again, as long as we do not push back, this will continue and it will grow. It will expand. We have to step in. We have to prosecute these people, the Don Lemons or whatever. It's just totally wrong. It's upside down. And it's incumbent upon us, churchgoers, religious people, because guess what? If they're coming to this church, they're going to come to you next. Now, they might not go to a mosque because they don't want to seem like they're Islamophobic, but they will be coming around and round and round. It's going to keep going.
Yeah. And folks, speaking of the Democrats, you heard what happened in Virginia over the weekend. So the new governor, who was all over the news, she ran against, Winsome Sears, was inaugurated. And so now in Virginia, Democrats control all branches of government. Take a look at this. This is clip 7.
Are you prepared to take the oath of office?
Yes, I am.
Please place your left hand on the Quran, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ghazala Firdos Hashmi,
Do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I will support
And
the
this
Constitution.
executive order rescinds Executive Order number 47. State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws. It is a responsibility of federal law enforcement. Virginia state and local law enforcement officers must be able to focus on their core responsibilities, investigating crime and community policing.
There you have it. So the first video you saw was the lieutenant governor being sworn in on a Quran. And the second video was the governor rescinding the former governor Youngkin, who was a Republican, rescinding his executive order for law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. So now Virginia is a sanctuary state. Nicole, what are your thoughts?
Typical. I mean, elections have consequences. And if you think that's something, you wait until their redistricting is done. They're not going to 50-50. They want 10-1, 10 Democrats to 1 Republican, and they will do. Winsome Sears said it best. Don't Maryland my Virginia. Well, Virginia's about to be very Maryland. You're going to too get a broken wing pterodactyl, and Republican votes won't be enough to overcome the Democrats that they're going to shovel around the state from Northern Virginia to make sure that no Republican goes to Congress. Not one.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Shelley, what are your thoughts here?
That's a quick reminder. Keith Ellison, the current Attorney General of Minnesota, he also was sworn in on a Quran. So was the most recent mayor of New York City. Again, I can never say his name, Mamdani. He swore in, took his oath of office. And this lady here, I can't even pronounce her name, so I'm not even going to try it. But again, these people, I liken them to this. They are really swearing an oath to usher in Sharia law. That's what I think. That's just how I think about it. They will probably deny that, but this is what I think. They are making Sharia law more and more palatable, if you will, little by little. It's like the frog in the pot, and you are slowly turning up the burner to the point where it doesn't even know it's boiling. This is where we are. This should be unacceptable. Virginians, Minnesotans, New Yorkers, this has been allowed across the country, not to mention all the Somali areas where they're praying 4 and 5 times a day on a loudspeaker, no less, not even in their own private mosque and places of worship. This is Sharia law is here. It's not even coming. It's here. And it's under disguise in many places, but it is here. And we need to wake up, if you will, and smell the coffee, because it is here.
Let me tell you guys something. These Democrats are not playing around, folks. They are not playing around. When they get into office, they mean business. See, right now, we just have President Trump, and he's really pushing his agenda. And some of the Republicans are, but, they're still sort of, at ends on what to push and what not to push. But when the Democrats get into office, if they get the House and the Senate, they're going right away and pushing their agenda. They're going to reverse any of the executive orders that President Trump has enforced, or at least make them not enforceable. And they're going to put in laws that are some of the most leftist laws we will ever see. Just in Virginia, okay. They just put forward this January. Here are some of the bills they've introduced. A new 4.3% sales tax on Uber Eats, Amazon, and other types of deliveries. And we know this is what they do because in order to put forward a lot of their agenda, they have to tax us out the wazoo. So every time we see Democrats get into power, whether it's federally or statewide, they start with increasing taxes, because in order to push their agenda, they need the money. And so they use us to do it. A new sales tax on admissions to a wide variety of businesses. They created 2 new higher tax brackets of 8% and 10% on people making over $600,000 a year, a new 10% tax bracket for anyone making over $1 million, 3.8% investment tax on top of state income taxes. They raised the hotel tax. I mean, the list goes on. They banned gas-powered leaf blowers. That's the second thing they do. They start banning things. They made it illegal to approach somebody at an abortion clinic. Okay. They extended the time absentee ballots can be received after election day to 3 days. This is all like everything they can do to fuel corruption, to take away our rights, our freedoms. They get right in and do it.
Absolutely. Okay, then look, this is why I say, or at least one of the reasons why I say, and people look at me, no, you get, this is why I say there's a time to break the law. Number one, I want my money back. Okay. We want our money back. All those taxes you named, keep in mind the tax code is so complicated. It's incremental for every so many dollars, and then it goes up to another level when you make so many dollars above this and all this crap.
Oh,
I want my money back. We want our money
Shelley,
back.
Before you get, and also 11% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition.
Absolutely. This is why I say there's a time to break the law. When I say that, I do not mean go out and murder. Can you say murder? I don't even know. Can't murder. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are laws that can be broken, if you will, quote unquote, civilly, in the sense that we have the right to put up a protest, to push back, whatever the case may be, on these laws, because ultimately they are hurting us. They're using our money against us and making us pay for it. Every April 15th and beyond, 365 days of the year.
Well, they voted for it.
Absolutely.
They absolutely voted for it. But you know, this is what happens when people vote party instead of voting issue. And I say that to you as somebody who's very partisan. You know, I'm incredibly partisan. It still boggles my mind, though, when you see people like all of the wealthy Republicans left Maryland and moved to Virginia. Because Governor Youngkin was there, business was thriving, taxes were low, kids were smarter, the air was sweeter. It was a beautiful thing. But he was term limited, right? Fine. Winsome Sears runs, loses the election. Abigail Spanberger is now the governor. Within 4 days, I think this is day 4, maybe day 5, all hell's breaking loose. So this may be, again, the beautiful thing amongst the chaos, maybe all of these wealthy Republicans will come back to Maryland. Maybe. No, they won't, because guess what? Everything that Virginia is doing, Maryland has already done, right? And Maryland's legislature has so many things planned to ruin the lives of Marylanders. I would be surprised, very surprised, if there's any money left in this state. If you have the means to escape, you will. You absolutely will, because you can only take so much. You can only give away so much of your money, so much of your time, so much of your talent. And in the meantime, they're looking you in the face and saying, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. You know, you make $500,000 a year. Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I could pay a little bit more in taxes, but I give to my church. I do things in my community. Let's take that all into account. Well, no, you have a luxury vehicle. So the luxury vehicle tax. So when they come for our gas mileage and the mileage tax starts kicking in, you know, Marylanders love their cars. I think that might be Westmore's rain tax. Do you know what I mean? So when the rain tax came, that was the death knell. And that's how we got Hogan elected. Maybe this mileage tax is going to be the death of Westmore.
Yeah. I mean, folks, if you don't think this can happen, stay home during the midterms. Stay home during the midterms. And we're going to see all this go nationwide. They're guaranteed, also in Virginia, they're guaranteed a bill to guarantee illegal aliens free education. I mean, the list goes on. Make it illegal to hand count ballots, assault weapons and large capacity magazine ban, prohibit outdoor shooting of a firearm on land less than 5 acres. They're lowering the criminal penalties for robberies. They're banning the arrest of illegal aliens in courthouses. And they're replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Folks, I just it just doesn't end.
KJ, you mentioned specifically about President Trump's executive orders. This is why at the federal level, certainly, we definitely need to stay on the Republicans in charge to put these executive orders in laws, encode them, codify them, make them laws. We've been playing around too much. Too long. It's already January the 20th. It's been 1 year. And I don't recall, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall any bill, make the tax bill, but that's not even permanent. That's only for a few years. Any executive order that President Trump has signed, I don't recall any being made into law.
They put them all, well, unfortunately, they put everything into what they call the one big beautiful bill. So what we can look forward to this term is yet another one big beautiful bill, because outside of the big beautiful, there were only 5 other ones.
Right.
Outside of the big beautiful, there were only 5 other ones. But with that said, the midterms are important for a myriad of reasons. But the number one reason, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, the number one reason why you need to go and vote for the Republican on that ballot is this. What we've done to change the culture has benefited everybody.
Wow.
Not just conservatives, not just traditional people. It has benefited everybody. Taking boys out of girls' bathrooms. Significant. And I know it happened all so fast. Like, he's squeezed 2 terms of legislation in the 1 year. And so it's hard to remember all the things that he's done. And it's really up to the GOP and organizations to make sure that messaging is correct. So what we're going to see is President Trump out here doing what President Trump does best, selling his agenda. The Great American Health Plan is live now. Trump RX should be up before the end of the month, where you can go and shop for drugs much cheaper than you can get them at CVS or Walmart or wherever you get your drugs from. There are so many things that this administration has done that sometimes the dust from them running so hard clouds the beautiful thing that they've done. So it's up to us to be town criers, not just us on the podcast, but you also in the chat. This is important. So when you run into your friends, you're like, oh, I'd never vote for Trump. He's doing horrible things. You see what he's doing to people in Minnesota. Yes. 3,000 child rapists, 3,000 felons who had no business being in this nation have been deported. And I voted for that. And you should vote for it too. They're not picking up choir boys. They're not doing none of that. They're not picking up just, the guy who runs the bodega on the corner. They're picking up criminals. And they have the ability to do so. They're doing their jobs. If you have a problem with what ICE is doing, change the law. We've been begging you for 20 years to do something about immigration. For 20 years, we've been begging them. And now that somebody's finally doing something, oh, well, we hate that law. We don't like the way they're acting. And that's coming from the people who makes the law. I mean, these legislators are complaining like they don't have a hand in this. 20 years they could have changed these immigration laws, but they did not. So you get what you got. We're at the FO part of FAFO. This is where we are.
Yep. Folks, elections have consequences. Right now, as you mentioned, I voted for everything that President Trump is doing. Everything. But folks, Virginians woke up this morning and they found out you guys, and honestly, I feel like, the person who told you, not to mess around with that whore, and then you wound up getting the clap. Right now, a bunch of Virginians have the clap. All right. And you guys going to have to burn a little bit. I want to ask everybody to hold off on the antibiotic and let them burn a little bit. Let them itch a little bit. I don't know what the clap does, but whatever it does, let it move, let it marinate. Okay. Because you guys messed up big time. All right. So, let it burn, let it marinate, let it funk you up a little bit. Let the memory set in. The feeling that you all are going to get from this. Because we already get it. A bunch of us got the clap in Maryland. With Westmore gave it to us. Okay? Oh, yeah. Shelly got it.
Pandemic.
Has it.
It's a pandemic.
Yeah. We all got it. So, but, now y'all got it. This new governor gave it to you all. So I hope it burns you real good. And maybe you'll remember this. And so the next election, you'll vote differently. In the meantime, folks, we got to raise awareness, folks. We got to let everybody know. They're giving out the clap. They're trying to give it to us. And they want us all bent over. Don't do it. Don't bend. You better vote right. This should be Trump's election message. They're out here trying to bend us over, okay? And we don't want any of it. We don't want your dirty... Now, this is it. And that goes in Florida too, folks, because you messed up in Miami. We got to get, what's his name? Byron Daniel.
Byron, yeah.
Yeah, we got to get him in.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, Byron's running a heck of a campaign. You know, I am incredibly proud of what he's done. He's been to everything. When I tell you everything, as somebody who also has been to everything, it's hard to go to everything. He goes to book signings and, you know, baby christenings and everything else. Byron is on top of it. He's meeting people where they're at. He's hearing their concerns, and he's ready to govern in a way that would bring great joy to the people of Florida.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, folks. Final segment of the night. We had to respond to the wackiness on The View. All right. Democrat Congressman Jim Clyburn was on, I believe it was yesterday or today, saying Republicans are going to bring back slavery. We weren't the ones who brought it in the first place. Take a look. This is clip 6.
You know, at least I used to teach history. And I used to tell my students all the time, anything that's happened before can happen again. When that phone call was made, find me 11,740 votes. When we saw those people rapping on those windows up in Michigan, trying to set up separate sets of electors, same thing in Pennsylvania. They were trying to set up a process that will allow this country to return to what it was in 1876 when the election got thrown into the House of Representatives, and they were able to overturn what Abraham Lincoln and the Congress had done, successfully getting rid of slavery. That is what they're attempting to do today. I get sick and tired of hearing people say, it's never been like this before. Yes, it has been.
And you're
like
right.
this before.
Yeah. And if we don't know our history, past will become prologue.
Absolutely.
We know that.
It's been like this before, Shelley?
Okay, first of all, there she goes, that damn Sunny past this prologue. So I had to go back and I had to pull out my little history book. And if I recall correctly, that election, what he's talking about, the Democrats tried to hold up that election. Okay, the Democrats, because of three southern states, they didn't want the slaves to have voting rights and to be able to go, freely about their business. So it was the Democrats that were trying to stop, as they always have been. So I don't know which history he's trying to twist, like this famous, the switch, the so-called switch. That's what Jim Clyburn was doing. And of course, the dumb lawyer sitting beside him to his left, the past will be prologue. When you're talking about your own damn party, you all were the ones who tried to uphold and uproot that election, and it was given rightfully to the Republican who had won it.
At least Jim Clyburn can sit back on his age. The man's getting older. Maybe he's a little dementia, whatever. But Sonny was her excuse.
That was a sleight of hand.
I'm just gonna say this, Shelley, you might be wrong, because he looked like he was probably there, right? He was there when it happened. He was a boy, so he only know a little bit, but he was there. He was there, right? No, you're absolutely right, Shelley. And this is where Democrats early on started playing with language, and they're like, there's this great switch. And, as Black people became powerful, they mean when we moved from the deep South up into the cities to learn what real poverty is like, right? The places where Black people are still infinitely poor and still can't find jobs and still have more children than they have money. Yeah, that switch. We ain't been right since. Nope. Ain't been right since as a culture. We celebrate sin like it's goodness, and we do it happily, right? This is who we are now. He was there for all of that. In fact, wasn't he one of the people who ushered in that error? And I mean error, not era, error. He was one of the people who ushered it in. So Whoopi, who was also probably there in the 1700s with him, between the two of them, Shelley, they may have more information than your history book has taught. They both were there. It was them two, Jesus, Methuselah. They were all there together, being old and all up in people's business and being wrong. No, I'm just joking. This guy is allegedly an icon for some people, right? And KJ's right. He's an older person, and we should have respect for seniors who are remembering things without the basis of knowledge or this handy dandy thing we call the internet. He could have asked Grok. Grok could have told him. Grok's a little bit of AI would have straightened it out for him. The one person he couldn't ask for help, Sonny, the lawyer sitting next to him, couldn't help.
Yeah. The View continues on their lies. This is what they do. They continue on their misinformation and lies. And folks, this brings us to starting in February, we are going to have a series on Poppin' Politics where we debunk leftist lies about Black history. This is going to be a fire series, folks. We're going to have special guests on here. We're not going to name them yet, but we're going to have some really cool special guests to provide perspective and historical data and knowledge and facts to push back against these lies that not only leftist pundits and news anchors and politicians push on us, but also it has been pushed in our public education system and education system broadly. We're going to push back on many of these lies. So this will be a great series to share with your Democrat friends, share broadly, absolutely, actually across the board, because it's going to be a way to get the truth out about a lot of this stuff. And one is how the Republican Party was founded on the opposition to slavery. We had on here, was it on here? No, it wasn't on here. On one of the other shows, Wesley, what's his name, Shelley? Colonel West. Is it Colonel?
Oh, he was on Poppin' Politics.
Oh, yeah, he was. Okay.
Alan West.
Alan West, yes. He talked about how the Republican Party was founded on the opposition of slavery. Okay. Slavery existed in the American colonies before the United States was founded, but the Republican Party was founded in 1854, and slavery existed for over 200 years. But these Democrats continue to try to blame the Republicans for everything, and the party was explicitly to oppose the expansion of slavery. It was the first major platform of the Republican Party, anti-slavery in new territories. Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, issued the Emancipation Proclamation. We won the Civil War, abolished slavery, and preserved the Union. Ladies, correct me on any of this, please?
Oh no, preach.
Okay.
No, hot fish grease, girl.
Okay, because folks, it's all right there. Republicans were the ones who passed amendments that ended slavery. The 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment. You look it up. It were Republicans who are involved in passing these amendments. So don't let these people lie. Please don't let them lie to you. And this is why we're here to correct it.
Absolutely.
They've lied so much that it's become lore. Do you know what I mean? When I hear people talk about the great switch, the parties switched, you can't even get them to stand in the same room together, let alone switch. Are you serious? I mean, it boggles the mind, but they do this thing where if they say a lie so much, it just becomes truth to them. whether or not it has any basis in fact.
Absolutely.
They play with language in a way that, and you're right, KJ, they play with different rules than we do. And, God forbid that we ever become those people. But I think at some point we're going to have to fight fire with fire. And I think we're at that point. I really do.
Yep.
I think we're at that point.
Well, we have a few super chatters, and I'm sure they feel the same. I don't want to speak for them, but I think they do because they are here with us. So we have Tijuana Border Jumper. Where you been, Tijuana?
We
Thank
missed you.
Where have you been? Good evening, ladies. Nicole, KJ, Shelly E, always watching, just sitting back and relaxing. All right, we better stop those borders and keep still. We have Too White for Coke. Thank you for your $5 super chat. I'm saying replace slavery with Sharia law. Just bought my unapologetically American t-shirt. Absolutely. That's what they're trying to do. Absolutely. And we have a new member here. I think Bill G. Thank you for joining, Bill G, being a part of our Freedom Club. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, folks. And check out Just the Guys podcast. That's our brother channel here on YouTube. All guys on there. They just had a show on Saturday. You can catch them every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. They are here to talk about how communism has infiltrated most of the areas of our lives, not just here in America, but across the world. So they give you that and much more from an all-male perspective. So check them out every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Well, folks, that does it for us tonight. This is our Tuesday Night Live. We recently started doing these Tuesday Night Lives just to bring you the latest in news and pop culture from a conservative perspective. We'll be back, though, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So 1 hour earlier. Well, actually, one half hour later than tonight. But we'll be back 8 o'clock tomorrow right here at Pop and Politics. You don't want to miss us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button if you're just coming in. Make sure you share this on your social media, post it in a DM, send it in a text message, this broadcast. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. All right. We love you guys so much. We're building a community here. Find us on Discord, folks. We're on Discord now. So Discord or Discourse?
Discord.
Yeah, Discord.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great way to chat with us about things we may not covered on the show, or maybe we'll get a little more in depth on our Discord. So check us out. The link is in the chat to connect with us on Discord. Yep, there it is right there, our MCM Discord. So we love to hear from you guys, and another way to connect and to form community.
And don't forget, it's here. We wanted it. They heard us. Give me my money back. Come on, Shells. Give us one. Give me my money back. It's like walking around with Shelly on the shirt, right?
Yeah.
You can walk around and be so proud because we're not the only ones saying this. We're the only ones saying it with our chest, though, right? Go ahead and get your shirt so people know where you stand. We have to build unity in this movement. We have to have unity in this movement. And this is one way to let people know what your politics are, without telling people what your politics are. This is a very cool way to do it.
And if I may add, ladies, we have a male's size and a female size, and the female size of this shirt comes with Shelly's titties. So you get like a little implant. You get a little bump. You get a little bump there. So that's it.
Shelly's gonna kill you. There's gonna be, listen, the funeral for KJ will be held next Sunday.
I'd rather be my titties because I don't have a dick.
Okay, that's a good thing, Shells. That's a really good thing. Lord have mercy. See, this is the stuff that y'all miss. This is like the stuff that y'all miss behind the scenes. Good
night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm trying to clean it up. There's no cleaning.
Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.